Allora, buongiorno. Oggi ho il grande piacere di avere con me Sarala Terpstra. Not very good with this surname. Oggi questa intervista non sarà in italiano, sarà in inglese perché Sarala parla inglese e francese. Allora abbiamo deciso che questa intervista sarà in inglese. Sul blog troverete l'intervista con la traduzione in italiano per voi. E allora, today I'm very, very happy to have Sarala here with me. Sarala is a writer of vegan plant-based cooking, but she's working with the French cuisine. So is a French version, a vegan version of the French recipes. It's very interesting. And I discovered Sarala on Instagram. Like you, when I was in COVID, during the lockdown, during the COVID, I started with learning more about Instagram. So I discovered you at the same time. And so today, Sarala is talking to us, is telling us her experience with the language, how she came to live in France. So, Sarala, tell me something about you. Where do you come from? Your story a bit.
Okay, well, first of all, grazie for having me.
Prego.
Very excited to talk with you today. And I am from the United States. I'm from Michigan, which is in the north of the United States. It's very cold in the winter. It's right next to Canada. But yes, during the lockdowns of 2020, during the COVID lockdowns, I started veganizing French cuisine as a project just to do something because I think many of us needed a distraction during that time. So that's how I started my Instagram, started sharing my recipes, and then eventually that led to me creating a cookbook of vegan French recipes. And the reason I am interested in French cuisine is because for 10 years, I dreamed of moving to France. It's my favorite culture, my favorite country. I visited France when I was 18 years old, and now I'm 31. So that was over a decade ago. And I immediately fell
Super
in love.
giovane, giovanissima. You are very young still.
Thank you. Well, and then I had when I was 18, I said, I'm going to move to France someday. So then I studied abroad in France, and through living with a French family, when I studied in France, I became exposed to French cuisine and I became very interested. So I kept teaching myself French cooking. And then finally, in the fall of November 2021, I had the opportunity to move to France. So now I live here and I very much enjoy living in France.
So when you started studying French, it was through a course, a university, you told me, no?
Exactly, yes.
And while learning, you felt that you liked this language as much as the culture that you wanted to explore. Is that
Yes,
right?
because exactly. When I visited France when I was 18, I didn't speak French, but I could hear it all around me. And I felt like I was outside something. And to be in that world, I had to speak the language. So I felt like I'm on the outside, like looking through a glass
Exactly.
and
That's a
seeing
good
another world. And I can't enter that world unless I learn the language. So I immediately enrolled in French classes when I got back. Yeah.
And this image that you are giving, like looking from a window outside,
Yeah.
you are kept from something. That's very real, very real. How many languages do you speak?
Well, my mom is from India, and when I was a little girl, I lived in India and I was fluent in my mom's language, which is Telugu. But I moved back to the US and I didn't use it as a teenager, so I just completely forgot it. Um, and now that I'm older, I see the value of languages. So I really wish I could go back and force myself to hold on to this language and to learn more languages because it does really open your world and helps you. It makes your life richer knowing more languages.
Sarah, you have a little girl and you live in France right now, correct? Is the project to stay in France for a long time?
Yes, my dream is to stay in France forever. So hopefully the French government lets me.
And what are you planning to do with your daughter? You speak English at home, I suppose?
Yes, so before we moved to France, a year before, I was trying to speak French with her, and I only let her watch TV in French for a
Mm.
whole year, and I was reading all French books to her. And then we came to the US, to France, and she's in French schools, and she's speaking French so well because she
Already.
already had some French. So now at home, I'm trying to read some English books to her, and
So not
you
to
know,
lose the English.
yes,
Exactly. And she's learning very fast, I imagine.
very
Very
fast, yes.
fast. Oh,
When she's tired, she only speaks in French. It's really interesting to me. It's
incredibile.
like she already thinks of French as her language.
Incredibile. This is
Yeah,
just incredible.
it
There's
is.
how fast.
It is.
And how was when you first arrived in France, your French, how was it? Did you feel people were helping you, were happy for you to try French? How was your experience with that?
Yeah, I found French people to be very gracious and very patient with my French. I don't speak very well. I don't speak, perfect grammar.
Mhm.
I can speak basic French. So they usually tell me, "Oh, you speak very good French," which isn't true, but it's very nice of them to say that. They're very encouraging. Yeah.
And your books are in English.
Yes.
Your books are
Yeah,
in
they're in
English.
English. Yes.
And do you think you will be translating these books in French or other languages? What are your plans?
Maybe in the future, but for now, I've seen that my biggest audience for my books are from English-speaking countries.
Mhm.
80% actually
Ah,
of my audience is from English-speaking countries, and I think because there are already French people who are doing plant-based French cooking in French,
okay.
there's not so much of a need for that in French. But in English, there's barely anyone doing it. And people outside of France are so interested in French culture. And I'm bringing French culture in a different way.
Mhm.
So I think for now, my audience is English for the most
Mhm.
part. Um, yeah.
In Italy, this attitude is changing a lot. So there is a lot of vegan cuisine, vegetarian, and in your books you talk about plant-based.
Yes.
Uh, is there a difference you are trying to make with vegetarian, vegan? What is the difference? For me, it's not clear.
Yeah, I understand. And even for me, sometimes I'm like, okay, what is the
Mm.
actual definition? Because plant-based is kind of a newer movement. But the reason I use the term plant-based is because vegan doesn't necessarily mean healthy or focused on food. Vegan is not just about food, it's about like not wearing
It's
leather
more.
or yeah, or using makeup, and it's about animal rights, and it's not just a food focus, whereas my focus is food and health and living a happy, healthy and sustainable life.
Mhm.
So I use the term plant-based because that is my focus.
Sì, capisco, capisco
Okay.
bene. Sì, sì, molto chiaro. I think in Italy, in Italian we would translate as cucina botanica, I think.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Sì, mi piace molto. Even though we use a lot the English plant-based,
Yeah.
but I think the translation would be cucina botanica. It would be nice. So,
That
mm.
that sounds nicer than plant-based.
And Sarala, your your suggestions, your hints to learn a new language in general. What did, what was that helped you a lot to learn French, apart from the traditional course?
Apart from the language courses?
Sì, the traditional
Oh,
grammar, the
yeah,
traditional teaching methods.
yeah. One thing that actually really helps me is I order these workbooks online, and they are English and French workbooks, and they have the answers in the back.
Mhm.
So I find that when I write out things, I remember better through writing. So, but when you do it in a class, oftentimes there can be some distractions with other students, or you have to go at the pace of the class. You can't go
Sì.
at your own pace. So when I do these workbooks by myself, I can go in my own speed, The answers are in the back, so I can clearly see what I'm doing wrong. So I love workbooks, and I just get them online, and in the French supermarkets, they have language workbooks as well. I also love learning French I think you have to choose topics that are interesting to you.
Esatto.
So I like French culture, so I usually try to find like French movies that have some kind of food focus, or like funny romance comedies in French. I like that stuff. That's entertaining to me, and that's a fun way for me to learn French.
Yes, that's a very good idea. So choosing something that is your interest, your main interest. So if you like food, in your case, read everything or watch movies about that topic. This helps a lot, and this is what I suggest also to my students. If you like sport, or if you are into anything, story or fashion, read and listen to everything around this topic, and this helps a lot. Brava, bravissima,
exactly.
vero?
And one more thing, if you have children, read children's books in that language you're trying to learn, because the level is simple. The language is simple, everyday language. It's not poetic.
Sì, 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 no philosophy, but
no, exactly.
Esatto. Senti, last thing, your future plans, because you have many plans. So what are your projects for the future, I progetti?
Well, I definitely want to stay in France, and I'm working on cooking classes right now. So those are going to be plant-based French cooking and online. But my dream is to someday offer some in-person cooking classes in France that are along with maybe exploring the French countryside or going to the market, because I've had people tell me that they want to visit France, but they have a gluten allergy or a dairy allergy, or they're vegan, and they feel that they can't visit France because of dietary restrictions. So I would like to offer, some kind of tour or experience for these people to get to experience the beauty of French culture and not have to worry about dietary restrictions.
I think this is a brilliant idea, because it's something totally new. Is how do you say? It's a niche. You have
Yes.
see,
Very niche, yeah.
It's very niche, but there are a lot of people who have this concern and are afraid to go around for these reasons. So that would be brilliant. Brava, complimenti. Sì, sì, sì.
Grazie.
So learning a new language opens you a new life, really.
Yes. I all because I took French classes that all led to here, which is something I never imagined. So a language can lead to so many things.
Ma grazie mille per la tua esperienza e la testimonianza. Thank you so much for your experience and what you share with us, because I think it's very inspiring, molto. So thank you very much for being with me and with us.
And thank you so much for having me.
Grazie, Sarala. Grazie mille. Ora I'm trying to switch off if I'm able to.